Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry I've been away for a while. I'm dealing with some stuff, but I'm excited to be back with you. Please subscribe and like. But some big news. Troy Weaver is no longer part of the Pistons. They parted ways. I think they did offer him a chance to have a minor role in scouting, and he chose to not take that role. So Trajon Langdon is on his way. I think it was a much needed move. I think the air needed to be cleared, and we just needed to try to kind of start over, but not really start over. So I think Trajon Langdon was a great hire. I think he's got a lot. We're going to talk a lot about that as we go, but Troy did some good things. He made some good moves, but he didn't make enough good moves. And here's the thing, he was long had a reputation when he was with Oklahoma City as being very well respected as a talent evaluator. We don't know. We don't know Trajon Langdon. We don't know these guys, and we don't know how much they really impacted all the decisions. So, like, right away, they get credit for, like, Troy got credit for all the great drafting Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell Westbrook and those guys. And so we don't know. I'm sure he played a part, but he's not the one that made the final decisions. Just like David Griffin, Trajan Langdon. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, he got Trey Murphy the third, who is one of my favorite players in the NBA, who I would kill to have for the Pistons." But I'm sure he was part of the decision making. Maybe he was a big part, but we don't know. We don't know that. And so, but he was part of that organization. They did make a lot of good moves, and just like Troy. But there was a reason, Troy Weaver, I heard him in rumors for at least like 10 years that people talked about him and about he might get this hire and why doesn't he get a job. But I'm going to tell you, I do think that there was a reason he didn't get the job, why he took so long for him to try to get a job. So that, of course, he does struggle to talk, and I know it was painful watching Troy at a press conference. And so I know that's just not his cup of tea. That doesn't mean that he wasn't a smart guy. I really do value Troy. He had a huge heart. Sometimes I think that his heart got in his way and overrode his brain. And so I think that played into some decisions that didn't work out so good for the Pistons. But anyway, it was the right move. He needed to be gone. And like my friend Richard Brooks, the only thing now is we need Monty to be gone. And so we're already going to talk about some possible coaches that the Pistons might be able to get. We're going to talk about what Trajan Langdon, can mean to the Pistons and what his experience can mean. And, we know that Gores has given him the freedom to change the front office and the coaches and coaching staff, and money's not an object. So we know that again, a lot of people don't like Gores, and I'm not a fan, but spending money is not one of his faults. He has been willing to spend money. He's just not made a good decision. But so we just need this Trajan Langdon to be a home run. He's 48 years old, and he's had a wide variety of experiences in the NBA. And I think that, that set him up to be successful. He was a scout with the Spurs. Well, the Spurs organization is great for scouting. So he got to be around them. That doesn't automatically make you great. Look at all the great assistant coaches Bill Belichick had for the Patriots. How many of them ended up being good head coaches? None. So it just doesn't make you automatically, but I do think that Trajan Langdon is a good fit and a good person for the job based on what I know. And I would I'd love to be in the interview room with these guys, just like with the draft picks. I would love to be in the individual workouts. I would love to be there when they get interviewed. And that would really help me if I was trying to evaluate how good somebody's going to be. But I really don't know. I try my best based on the information I get, to give my opinions. But I just know that Trajan Langdon, I just remember him when he came out of Alaska. He was called the Alaskan Assassin when he played for Duke. And, he was a real good player for Duke. And he also played in the NBA for 3 years. But his experience in the EuroLeague. He played in the EuroLeague. He was the Finals MVP. He won championships in the EuroLeague. So, but he has a good understanding of how the EuroLeague works and how the players think and what to look at and how they're developed. And so he's got some networking that he's done by playing over there. That he's got some people that he knows, and so I think that's going to be valuable. There's a lot of good European players that are a huge part of the NBA. So I think his experience over there is going to be valuable. I think his experience, with the Spurs, he was with the Nets, and when they were a rising organization, he was an assistant GM there for a while, and then now he's been the general manager for the Pelicans, and they made some good moves. But David Griffin is the guy for the Pelicans that makes all the decisions. So as much as he's been rumored, I've heard reports that he's well respected with the Pelicans, but we don't know how much he's really done as far as making the decisions. So it is good, cool. One of my favorite free agents, Najee Marshall. So who has more insight into Najee Marshall than Trajon Langdon? He's been right there with him. And it's a really cool thing because he'll know, and he also has a relationship with them. Is that going to help us have a better chance of getting him? And he'll know how much he's worth. He'll know inside and out everything about him. Also, I'm not for the Brandon Ingram trade, and I just think he wouldn't want to sign with the Pistons he's got 1 year left only on his contract, and to give up much, But Trajan Langdon knows everything that he's about. He's been around him for 5 years, and so he's well aware of what he can do on the court and off the court, and what makes him tick. So that will be, that's valuable. Another thing that I love, they've had really good player development with the Pelicans. And so he's been there, front row and center, to see how those players have developed. They have one of the best shooting coaches, so is he going to be able to steal him, or does he at least know some ways to help with that? So we're going to see what Trajan Langdon can mean for us. And, like you said, they drafted Herb Jones also, and his shooting improved greatly. I get a big kick out of everybody thinks, oh, well, we're going to get J.J. Redick because J.J. Redick played at Duke and Trajan Langdon played at Duke. So, some of those things, people do have relationships and they can make a difference, but I just don't think that that's a situation that is going to happen. So we'll see. But anyway, I do want to I have some listeners that are on X, and Mike, and I don't know how to pronounce your name, Urline and Nurabil Karadine. I thank you for your prayers. Like I said, I don't like when podcasters talk about their personal lives too much. I think a lot of times they waste a lot of my time, but I have been dealing with some illness and trying to get that figured out. I got an appointment on Monday with a neurosurgeon, and I'm going through a divorce. So those are things that have kept me away, but I hope to be back, and there's going to be an exciting time for Piston fans and all the stuff that's going to be happening between now. But the ball is finally rolling. We need this to roll. And like I said, Richard Brooks said, until Monty Williams gets fired, and I just hope that Trajan Langdon has the insight to see what happened. It's just hard. We had too much talent to have a team that won that few of games to be the worst team in history. And, Monty didn't have the greatest roster, and he had a lot of injuries, but he made a lot of show that he was, and I've said this before on the podcast, somebody that thinks Killian Hayes should start. Killian Hayes started his last game with the Pistons, and then the last 2 months of the season, not one terrible team thought that, well, we're going to take a chance on this guy, and we're going to sign him and see what happens. And that doesn't mean that Killian's not going to get better and sign with the team and do good someday, but it's just that we played him over Ivy. We started him, and the same thing with some other players. He just showed a bad decision making. We were the worst team at the end of games, and some of that has to come out of Monty. Does that mean we would have won 30 games? Probably not, but we certainly would have won, in my mind, at least 5 to 7 more games if we had somebody just even making the end of game decisions, including substitutions, timeouts, plays, whatever. I think that it would have made a big difference if we had a different coach. So we're going to just see what happens there. And like I said, they offered Troy a scouting role, but he didn't care to take it. But it's just not clear what we're going to what say that Trajan's going to have with the coaching decision. I think that he will get to decide if we want a different coach, and um, but we're like I said, we're not clear about what Trajan had in making decisions for the Pelicans, or again what Troy had when he was with Oklahoma City. Sorry about that. I kind of messed up a little bit, but Troy um, was, like I said, he wasn't hired even after he was rumored for years. He did make some good pickups. Getting Jeremy Grant was a great move. We waited too long to trade him, so we got a lot less than what we should have got. I think signing Bogey, trading for Bogey was a great move. What we gave up was nothing, and so that was a great move. And signing him to a really great contract, I think, was good. But we waited too long to trade him. And Burks was a good one. Monty Morris, that was a great signing, but he was injured all the time, but he waited too long. I still think I'm going to tell you, I really believe that Troy trading for Grimes and Fontecchio, and Fontecchio got his toe surgery. Doesn't make you wonder? Fontecchio, they just now did his this week did surgery on his toe, which was hurt. With 15 games left in the season, why do you wait to do the surgery until way after the season's over? It doesn't make any sense. That's a red flag for the Pistons medical staff. I don't know, but Fontecchio, tic-tac-toe, who knows? I just think of funny things like that sometimes. But so now there's speculation who is going to be hired for the Pistons second in command, who's going to be the general manager for Trajan Langdon. So he's jumping up a step and doing the same role that David Griffin had with the Pelicans, where he's the final decision maker. But now we need to hire somebody that's going to have the same role that Trajan Langdon had, where he's the general manager with the Pelicans, and who's going to be our new general manager. So there's candidates out there, and there's different ones that we've heard of already that are speculated. And there's Matt Lloyd, who's the vice president of basketball operation with the Timberwolves. Tim Connelly hired him, so that means he's probably pretty good. He was with the Magic for a decade as assistant general manager and vice president of basketball operations. So he's had a lot of experience with different organizations. And Tyler Schleck, who was the vice president with the Wizards and also with the Hawks from 2017 to 2022, and he drafted Trae Young and for the Hawks, along with John Collins and DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Herter, DeAndre Hunter, and Okongwu, and a bunch of guys. So he also worked with the Warriors for 13 years. So anyway, we'll see what happens with who they're going to hire with that. But there's also Brock Aller, who's with the Knicks, vice president of basketball operations, and he's known as their cap guru. And he is, they've done a wonderful job managing their cap and getting first round picks and all the moves that they've made. So, he might be a good option. And there's Tayshaun. Everybody loves Tayshaun, and he's been with the Grizzlies. I'm not for this hire, even though I enjoyed him, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens with him getting hired. So, yeah, there's lots of things that are going to be happening really fast, and the coaching search. So here's the problem that we know there's going to be coaches hired, like the Cavs are trying to hire a coach. So there are rumors that Kenny Atkinson and James Brago might be hired, and we just don't know who they're going to hire because they're on a different curve. But before I say that, I did skip something. Serious talks have already begun with the Pelicans' Michael Blackstone. So Michael Blackstone served as the Pelicans' vice president of basketball operations and administration over the last several years. So obviously, Trajan Langdon has a great relationship with him and believes in him and knows him intimately. And so I think that's probably who is going to get hired. So we're probably going to have Michael Blackstone as our new general manager. Is the best odds on. But he was also assistant general manager with the Hawks and also with the Cavs. He was for a while. So he has good experience. So we'll see what happens with him. But again, back to the coaching search. So we have Kenny Atkinson and James Brago are front runners for that job. and they are on a different timeline than us. They obviously need to win right away. But there's a guy that I wanted, Johnny Bryant, and Johnny Bryant was with the Utah Jazz when they were really great, when they had all those great Jazz teams, and he was the trainer for Davion Mitchell. And so they have a great relationship. And so the Cavs want to keep him. And so do they hire Johnny Bryant? And again, I love Johnny Bryant. Johnny Bryant is now the number one assistant, the associate head coach for the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks obviously got it going. They're a hot commodity. They have this great culture there. And he's been there working with Tibbs, his right hand man. And who knows that I think he could be a great coach. I mentioned him before before they made the finalists where they had Jaron Collins and Charles Lee and Kevin Ollie. I was had him as one of my top candidates, but he never even got into the search. I don't know that he even got an interview. So those are all good candidates. But Jaron Collins, I liked him when he was a candidate back before we hired Monty. And who knows Jaron Collins better than Trajon Langdon? So Jaron Collins has been an assistant with the Pelicans for a long time. He started out with the Warriors. He was a scout and a player development coach with the Warriors. He was there as an assistant with Steve Kerr when they won championships. And, so he has a lot of great experience. But like I said, he has that great ties with Trajan Langdon. And so it's nice when you know somebody really well. But the other guy who was rumored, and a lot of people don't think that he will leave the Miami Heat, but Chris Quinn. So I would hire him in a heartbeat. So he would be my number one choice would be Chris Quinn. He's been the Heat assistant for 10 years. And he is, when Spoelstra, who's most consensus, I think, regarded as the best coach in the NBA. He is considered to be the mini-me for Spoelstra. And so whenever Spoelstra got sick for a while, or when he needed somebody to fill in for him, Chris Quinn was the guy for the Heat that filled in for him. So he is, he's supposedly has a very similar temperament to Spoelstra and the same organizational skills. So that's a great chance. So, but we're going to be getting into the draft, and I still think this is a tough draft. And so again, people talk about trading the pick. Do we trade it? I don't know. It depends on what we get, just like any other trade. I just still keep on saying I hear people on podcasts and everything say trade a pick, trade Ivy, trade Duran, but it only depends on what you can get for them. And I don't know. So anyway, I still am high on Richiche, and I think he's going to be a real good shooter. He is not a lights out great number one like he's going to be. He's not like Brandon Miller, who I'd love to get a guy like that, or even Jabari Smith, but he has a chance to be a really good player. You're going to have to take a swing on this draft. There are no just locked down great picks like a lot of years. There's three top picks or four that are going to be almost can't miss. And a lot of people say that this draft is like most years, the number one pick this year would be the seventh. So we're really picking from 7 on up with this year's, and there's going to be good players. There's going to be some of these guys. Richiche might end up being a really great player, but we don't need star players, but we need somebody that can play a really good role. We need, I've been preaching that we need length and shooting and defense. Those are the three things. And Richiche is a pretty good defensive player. He showed signs of being a great shooter, but not. He had a little bit of a slump, but now he's back again. So a lot of people got all excited. He had a game where he had 28 points, 5 for 7 on threes, and 29 minutes in a playoff game. And he's still playing, I think, overseas. So, and I talked about Montes Bazelis, and he has potential. Is he a little roll of the dice? He is. And I wouldn't be rolling the dice if there were better choices, but there just aren't. And so could Montes Bazelis be a Trey Murphy III or a Herb Jones? He's not going to be as good a defensive player as Herb Jones, but he can block shots. He blocked a lot of shots playing in the G League. And so we'll see how that happens. Another person, Donovan Klingman, and he's not, he would serve a good role. Most good teams have a rim protector, and we don't. And so if we want to be a good team, we'll see. And I still think that doesn't mean that you have to trade Jalen Duren. Doesn't mean you have to give up on him. But you might if you could get something good for him. But a lot of teams, I talked about this before, that you need two good centers. And we're seeing it now, Lively and Gafford with the Mavs. So now Lively, who was a rookie last year, is playing more than Gafford, but they got two good centers. Um, so the Knicks have two good centers. Another thing, free agency, what's going to happen, with the free agent centers, there's some good, Claxton's good, they got some good potential there, but we're going to talk more about that later. But again, it's nice to be back with you guys, and thank you for listening. And I wanted to say this, be the reason that someone feels cared for, and you never know what people are going through when you see somebody. So go Pistons!